All right, so welcome in. I've got three interesting statistics that we are going to talk about today. The first one, these are all national numbers, but they're great data points for the current housing market. For anybody who's owns a home, thinking about buying, thinking about selling, these are all great numbers to be aware of. Nationally, about 32% of the existing inventory is made up of new home inventory. And traditionally that number is about 12%. So you're almost 3%, or you're almost three times more than normal. Obviously, what's driving that is the lack of existing home inventory that's going on the market. We've been talking about it all year. Homeowners are more reluctant to put their property on the market, whether they are happy with their house or not happy with their house. They're most likely happy with their low interest rate. And therefore, they're more reluctant to put the property on the market. And for that reason, the new build inventory is making up a larger percentage of what is available for people to buy. So something to consider if you are in the market. Now, the second statistic I've got for you, about 10 years ago, the debt to equity ratio across the United States for all homeowners was about 50%, 50-50. There was about $9 trillion worth of debt across the United States, and there was about $9 trillion worth of equity that homeowners had in their home. Today, 10 years later, that ratio has changed drastically. Today, there's about $12 trillion of debt and about $31 trillion of equity that consumers have in their homes. So today, people have a significant amount more equity in their properties, which that number is significant when you look at a potential recession and what could happen with foreclosures and lots of bank-owned properties coming on the market. It's not likely that we're going to see a significant number of foreclosures and bank-owned properties given how much equity the average consumer has in their property. Of course, you will still see that, but it'll just be a lower amount, most likely based on these numbers. Okay, and now the third thing I was going to mention, and this is, in my opinion, the most interesting number. According to a survey by a company called John Burns Research, 71% of consumers said that the 5.5% interest rate is the tipping point. That is the rate to which they would not be willing to accept to buy a home. So what that means is you are going to see a heightened level of demand and a heightened level of competition in the marketplace when rates get to about 5.5%. That's a national statistic. Here, what I'm seeing locally in Columbus, I'm seeing a big difference between the high sixes or 7% and the low sixes. So my feeling is when we crack the 6% mark and get back into the fives with interest rates, we're going to see a very large increase in demand. And we still have a lot of demand relative to the level of supply that we have today. So if you are a buyer or you're thinking about buying a home or making a move sometime in the next, let's say, year or 2 years, you have to consider this. You're going to see more competition and a higher price when rates come back down below 6 and into the mid fives. That seems to be the level that people are waiting for. So factor that in as you're considering whether you were willing to accept, let's say, a 6.5% rate or something comparable to that today. You might save a little bit on the price. You might get some more contingencies in your offer, but you're going to take a little bit higher interest rate. Obviously the goal would be maybe you refinance it in a couple of years. Or less, but you've just to weigh those two options. What's better, fighting competition but getting a better rate, or vice versa? And maybe you can find a sweet spot somewhere in between. But I just found that to be a really interesting statistic and something that you absolutely should think about as a home buyer or somebody that might buy a home in the near future.